Superman from the main DC universe finding out about Absolute Superman is one of the coolest moments in DC Comics. This discovery, or revelation if you want to call it that, comes through Saturn Girl. And what she says here is she says, "You believe you know what tomorrow is, but you are wrong." My story is very different from that of the Saturn Girl you knew, Kal-El. The war between Brawl and Titan had raged since before I was born. They did not trust our ability to break into their minds. The Brawlian invaders felt we needed to be eliminated. And so I joined the war and killed plenty of those metal manipulators. I was repaid for my victories by being locked away. Even my own people feared my power. Everyone on Titan is burdened with the ability to hear another's mind. It was not unusual to hear voices around us. Right away we can tell that Saturn Girl isn't from the same future where the Legion of Superheroes exists in the 30th or 31st century and follows Superman's legacy. The Absolute Universe is a much darker world. And she says, "But I did not hear the voices of my people or even my enemies. Something else spoke to me and only me. It told me the secrets of everything. With each day the voice grew louder until it showed me everything. Much of the past where I come from has been lost through countless wars. But that day, I saw the final god." Everything Saturn Girl talks about, she shows Superman using her telepathy. But remember, in the Absolute Universe, most stories happen on Earth right now. The only thing close to space is Absolute Green Lantern, and even that mostly takes place on Earth, with John Stewart briefly seen on the moon. As for other cosmic characters like Absolute Lobo, we haven't learned about them yet. It's exciting to know there's a whole space side to the Absolute Universe that we just haven't explored yet, but hopefully will soon. But that's where she says that the voice of Darkseid inspired her. And so what ends up happening is she basically tricks a couple of her guards. That using telepathy, she tells one of them, "I can see in your minds. You're worried. You have a daughter. You're afraid of what the Brolians will do to her if they ever get hold of her. While you fear your commanding officer." And so in turn, they turn their guns on each other. They literally attack each other. And so as she's getting ready to leave, she's seemingly met by Cosmic Boy, right? And instead of the two of them coming together, right, to basically form the Legion of Superheroes, they come together in the service of Darkseid because he says, "I know we're supposed to be bitter enemies and everything, but if you get this power-draining collar off of me, I can help us break out." And so she says, "The voice gave me purpose. It gave me a mission to gather its forces, to gather its legion, and I did just that. I traveled from world to world across our universe and found others who felt his presence. I traveled from world to world across our universe and found others who felt his presence. Our God's power grows stronger every day, and the great collision is upon us. Your reality will fall before his might." And of course, Superboy Prime having to get his little 2 cents in, right? You know, and now you can add me to your ranks. The coolest version of Superman and the Legion of Superheroes ever. Here's an important detail being shown here. It's small but really matters. For anyone who needs a reminder, I can make a video explaining how we got to this point in the Absolute Universe. The playlist already gives more details, but basically, at first we were left to guess why Darkseid did what he did. Why he left and created his own universe that only he could control. Many thought Darkseid just wanted his own world to rule and shape as he pleased. But now it looks like there's more to it. Darkseid made the Absolute Universe to gather power, to build an army big enough to invade the main DC universe. Why? Because that universe is the one place he's never truly conquered, the one thing he still can't control. But his biggest goal has always been to take over the main DC universe. And the Absolute Universe seems to be the way he plans to do it. Now, of course, in response to Superboy Prime, Superman just says, right, like, "Do not do this. You're better than this." And then, of course, Superboy Prime headbutts him, reminds Superman of his place in the bigger picture, and just says, "All I wanted was a team-up, and you couldn't even give me that, so this is what you get." And Saturn Girl kind of pulls him off, right? You know, she says, "Look, there'll be plenty of time for that later." And Superboy Prime is just like, "You can read my mind." And she's like, "Yeah, right, I can, and I like what you see. You're really screwed up in there." But that's where things get really interesting here, because at that point, Lightning Lad, right, he chimes in here and he says, "We should just kill Superman and his little sidekick right now." And of course, Superboy Prime, never one to really back down from a challenge and full of all kinds of arrogance and pride and whatnot, just simply says, "If you want to throw down, I've got no problem killing Legionnaires, so take your shot." And of course, Lightning Lad is just as stubborn as Superboy Prime. And he's just like, I don't think you want that. And so that's where Prime is just like, then how about I rip your arm off and beat you to death with it? It's kind of my thing. But Saturn Girl steps in here and simply says Superboy Prime will have his chance to prove he's one of us, to test his loyalty to Darkseid. And she just asks Garth, right? She's like, be a deer and get Booster Gold while Prime and I talk. Here's the thing. When Superman tells Booster Gold to run, it's not just because of Booster's time travel powers. Sure, that's what it seems like since Superman doesn't know the full story. But there's actually a lot more going on with Booster Gold than just time travel. That's when Superman gets attacked and the Relic starts mocking him, thinking he actually has a chance. The question being asked, Saturn Girl, what's the plan? And that's when you kind of learn what's going on with Booster Gold and why he's so significant here. She says, Booster Gold has absorbed chronal energy, and that has allowed us to use him to travel through the different futures to track down anyone who is a threat to our master. But Booster Gold also holds Omega energy, the very essence of entropy. And as long as he does, Darkseid cannot be whole. He cannot fully return. So as much as we needed our dear Booster Gold, we're going to sacrifice him. We've been through so much, witnessed so much horror, and it will all be over soon. And that's the key point here. It's not just that Booster Gold can time travel. Sure, that helps him deal with different threats, but his real purpose is much bigger. He actually has to be sacrificed so Darkseid can return to the main DC universe. It's like the trade-off. Darkseid used so much power to create the absolute universe that he now needs Booster to open the door from the other side. And so that's where Saturn Girl says, the many legions of this world's future, they worshipped Superman. They worshipped heroes. But the thing they truly worship is the past while we worship the end, which is why we will win. And so following that, you kind of switch over to the ruins of the 31st century. And that what's told here is a machine that Darkseid is seemingly using, or at least using indirectly, forged with hate and darkness, crafted from technology from across all of time and space. But with all its power, it needs one final ingredient: blood. Booster Gold's blood has been infused with both chronal and omega energy, making him the key to traversing the time stream and destroying all possible threats to the great Darkseid. Once Booster's blood fuels the machine, it will send omega energy into the barriers between time and space and light a path for the final god to return. Element Lad, be a deer and use your powers over creation to open the portal for us. And that's when Element Lad just says, Darkseid is. Superman is forced to just stand there and watch everything happen. And the scary part for him is knowing that Darkseid is coming back. Superman has to face the fact that Darkseid might really come back, and that terrifies him. If Darkseid returns, his whole universe could return with him, and no one knows what that would mean, not even Superman. And that's why he says, stop, this is not you. There must be something of the Imra I knew in there. And she says, I'm not her Superman, I know only Darkseid. And now that is all anyone will ever know. The future has fallen. Now it's the past turn. And Superboy Prime just says, I wish I could have seen you take down those dumb Legion kids. I always hated him. And that's where Saturn Girl is just like, it was glorious, violent, and it was fun, but now is your chance to prove you follow Darkseid. Kill Booster Gold. And the funny thing about this is, Super Prime is just like, Dan Jurgens is going to be pissed, because Dan Jurgens was the creator of Booster Gold. So, of course, Dan Jurgens is going to be angry. And the whole time, Superman just begs him, like, do not do this. You said you were better, that you weren't this person anymore. Because one move by Superboy Prime in killing Booster Gold, Darkseid steps right through that portal. And it's the end times, like, literally, the end times are upon us. And so that's where Superboy Prime looks back at Superman and says, remember what Time Trapper told you, Superman? I'm here to do what you could never do. And that was making sure these losers thought I was one of them. And he turns on the Legion. He was like a double agent the entire time, right? And the whole time, Saturn Girl is just like, what in the hell? And Superboy Prime literally just says, Superman cannot hide his thoughts. He's always thinking of doing the right thing. It's at the forefront. With you reading his mind, it's tough to pull a fast one. But me, I really do hate the Legion. and I can blast my nerd rage all day long. And he literally starts laying waste to the Legion of Superheroes, to the Legion of Darkseid, and just like starts taking all of them out one after another. And after that, he frees Superman. Now of course Superboy Prime walks up on Booster Gold and Booster's like, "So you're not gonna kill me?" And literally Prime is just like, "No way. I just needed these dorks to open a portal back to Superman's home timeline." And even Superman admits, right? Super Prime had them all convinced, and he says maybe too much. And that's where Booster Gold is grabbed by Prime and thrown through the portal back to the main DC universe. And Superboy Prime just says, "It's time to hit the road, Booster." And he's like, "Just say hi to Blue Beetle for me." And then he tells Superman, "You better get going after him, otherwise he's going to get lost in time and you still owe me a team up." And so that's where Superman just looks at Prime and is like, "I want you to have something." And he gives Superboy Prime his Legion ring. That's not a small thing, I mean, it's a big deal. When you think about it, even after everything that's happened in DC Comics, Superboy Prime has always been a Superman fan first, and a sometimes crazy vigilante second. So this moment means a lot to him. And for fans of Superman, the Legion of Superheroes, and Superboy Prime, it's just as huge. And that's where Prime is just like, "I mean, I didn't really earn this." And Superman just simply says, "You will right now. Come on, let's fight these wannabe Legionnaires together, and then you can come back with me." And so Prime actually rejects the offer. He's like, "No, ultimately just hold them until the portal closes." And Superman doesn't want to leave him, because there's a better than fair chance that Superboy Prime dies. But that's where Prime just says, "I've been a fan of yours all my life, and no matter what anyone says, you're the coolest superhero ever. Batman can suck eggs." So there you go, Batman fans. Superboy Prime says your favorite superhero sucks, but he says, "Listen, Time Trapper showed me some of what could happen next. For you to save your future, to save the Legion, you need to save the past. Trust me when I say the only way you're going to be able to stop Darkseid is don't hold back." He punches Superman so hard that he flies back through the portal. Then Superboy Prime puts on his Legion ring, and once the portal closes, the real fight begins. Superboy Prime gathers the remaining members of the Legion of Superheroes from the 31st century, the ones who survived the Legion of Darkseid. And so with these guys at his side, he's like, "Now it's time for a Legion team up." And literally the statement's made, "We're no Legion. We're going to die, so just a little optimism here could go a long way, just, talking about how you're immediately going to get killed." And even the statement's made, "Darkseid's forces are too powerful." But that's the funny thing. Superboy Prime delivers this kind of like amazing monologue, this amazing statement where he says, "The Legion changes all the time. Sometimes it's a big team. Some days it's a small one. What matters is that we're all influenced by Superman to do what's right, so there's only one thing left to say. Long live the Legion." It looks like they're flying straight to their own doom. Then the story shifts to the Justice League Watchtower, right after the events of the Justice League Unlimited comic, which by the way is amazing. This part happens after issues 10 and 11. Without spoiling too much, let's just say seeing Gorilla Grodd with a Darkseid symbol on his head makes for a really awesome story. Literally, the Flash just says, "Trapper, you do not get to make nice just by repairing the damage you caused. Steel and Metamorpho are still in a bad way. Why did you come here?" Here's the cool part. This connects directly to the Justice League Unlimited comic. The comic gives this moment more detail and background, but the main point stays the same. To deliver a message, but I see that in 4.2 seconds someone else will convey it. And in the middle of all of this stuff, an alert goes off, right? Priority Omega alert, threat level off the charts. And that's where this voice comes in and says, "Contact every single available member of the Justice League." And Superman shows up with Booster Gold and just says, "Tell everyone to come to the Watchtower now." Here's what he knows for sure. Superboy Prime and the last members of the Legion can't hold off the Legion of Darkseid for long. It's only a matter of time before they break through. If you look closely, the portal behind them isn't sealed. It's still open, meaning there's still a way in and out. All of this is leading up to the big crossover between the Absolute Universe and the main DC Universe. This is just the beginning. That's it for now, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time.